there, and welcome to the Leadership Podcast with Mutondi R. I am your host, Mutondi R. Today, I have a wonderful guest, Ndia Magadagela, who's going to share her journey of success. You'll be amazed by her story. So we cover such beautiful stories of women who are doing great things and phenomenal things. So this is the podcast for you if you want to be inspired. Yeah. So Ndia, thank you so much for joining me in this podcast. So we're going to have just a conversation, and the aim is just to educate and inspire and help those who are coming after us, to be better equipped for this leadership journey, especially as a woman. So can you please just share your journey? Whatever that you feel will be relevant for this setting, just please share with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on the Mutondi R podcast,
Yeah.
the trending podcast. So I'm very, very honored to be here.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you say it's the journey of leadership because I really don't feel like I've arrived. I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface. But I'm going to share with you what I've learned so far, right? In my 40 years of life. Okay?
Yeah.
So the journey starts in the early 80s. I was born in a place called Ndia in Venda. And I'm the youngest of 5 children. I have 3 sisters, and I used to have a brother who's now late. And I studied in a primary school. In fact, just after I was born, like 2 years after I was born, my parents moved to another village called Amashamba, where you're from.
Yes,
where you're from as well. And they moved there because they saw an opportunity in the retail sector at the time. This is the early 80s, and so I'm the youngest of 5 children. What they would call a lat lameki, because I'm actually like 10 years younger than my brother. Right?
Oh, wow.
And so I studied there, and then eventually fast forward to finishing matric in Pretoria. I actually did high school in Pretoria, in Hammanskraal specifically, at Prestige College. And then I went to the University of Pretoria. I studied accounting. At times took the scenic route because some of it was difficult. And I'm saying this because people think the journey of life is straight, right? But there were some parallels, and there were things that didn't go as planned. But eventually I finished, and nobody asked me now how long it took me to finish my degree, right? It doesn't matter.
Can we tap into those?
We will talk about that.
Yeah.
So then I finished my degree, then I went and I did my articles at Deloitte in Pretoria. They used to have a Pretoria office at the time. After Deloitte, I just did articles. I qualified as a chartered accountant. I then went to the Industrial Development Corporation. I spent about 7 years at the Industrial Development Corporation. I was a senior deal maker when I left. I really enjoyed my work there because it's every day looking at ideas of business people and funding that and seeing them grow. So you can see kind of brought up in the business sector. I go and I become a deal maker. I then left IDC and I went to Momentum Metropolitan in their mergers and acquisitions. I spent 2 years there. And 4 years ago, I then left corporate and we started Blackslope.
Took a leap of faith.
I took a leap of faith.
Sure, wow.
Yeah.
No, well done. So from what you have shared with us so far, we know that you're a chartered accountant.
Sure.
And I don't know who has had a smooth ride into qualifying as a chartered accountant, but I know it gets quite interesting, and it tests you to a certain extent. So can you just share with us the challenges that you came across, and what are the things that you did in order to eventually make it as a chartered accountant? Because I think qualifying alone as a chartered accountant is a huge success.
No, sure.
And we need to give it enough of its spotlight, because there's someone out there who is really, working on this, and sometimes you feel like it's not going to happen because, it's getting kuningi in whatever that you're doing. It's getting kuningi, and so let's just share and be human about it, because we are here now, but we were not here.
We were not born here.
We were not born
We were not
here.
born here.
Exactly.
No, for sure. So I arrived at the University of Pretoria, the
Yeah.
big city,
Yeah.
first of all, and I cannot go straight into accounting sciences, so I do a B.Compt general. They used to call it B.Compt own choice. So you just kind of pick a few, the subjects that you think can make up a year of some degree, right? And so I do that in the first year, and then at the end of the first year, I'm like, no, actually, I'm ready to transition to accounting sciences. Lucky enough, I had done very well in that first year, and then I had to do what they used to call FRK 100. That is the accounting that is for accounting sciences.
Yes.
Remember, there's accounting for the finance
one.
stream, and then there's accounting. That one did show me a little bit of flames, right? But you ask, I mean, how did I overcome? I think there are two things. Now looking back, I think I didn't know that then. I mean, we're young when we start these journeys. It really helped to have a support system around me.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just that my parents were very supportive. Like even when, sometimes you get 18 in this degree. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. And we are coming from schools, and you came there with distinctions. You really just thought you will never fail.
You've never failed in your life.
You've never failed in your life, and then this thing shows you flames. But my parents were very supportive, right? So if there are parents who are watching this, really just support your children's dreams. And then secondly, I really surrounded myself with very good friends. And I really believe my steps were just ordered by the Lord, because I had very good friends who some were excelling, some not, but together we were a unit that was really encouraging each other to make
forward
it,
as well.
To move forward. And so, and there were the friends who were not scared to sleep at the overnight center studying for through the night. And so when you sort of have those kind of friendships, you are also determined to make it better. But I think thirdly is just the fact that my faith in God, I served the Lord from when I was quite young. I was active in the church. I was in the worship team, even at varsity, even in first year, second year.
So you were not one of those when they get to varsity, they get confused.
Well, confusion in but I was always in the church. And so my faith and just that confession of who I am all the time started back then. And that really carried me to eventually finish. And so 4 years later, I mean, I added a year to my degree, finished my degree, went into honors. University of Pretoria said, we don't want the ones who did the scenic route. Go get somebody else to do the honors.
Wow.
And I did, and then eventually I qualified as a CA. But again, I want to just say that once you get that qualification, nobody is going to ask you anymore. How long did it take you? It's just about, it shows resilience. It shows that you've got grit, and I would say it's been really worth it for my journey and where I am right now.
Wow, that's really powerful. And what I'm getting from you, you're saying yes, the journey is difficult. Okay, just like a lot of things in life. But when you have a support system, that really, sometimes they don't understand what you're doing.
No, not at all.
Because I was, my family shame, they did not understand. But they knew that they just had to support, right? Sure. So, and that makes a world of a difference.
No, for sure.
Just to know that I have people that whenever life slaps me hard, I can go back and gather some strength. So your parents were that anchor for you. And secondly, you mentioned faith.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, I've always said that the CA stream will test you on the physical level, intellectual level. Already when you do it, you are, clever, you are smart. But then it will test you. And then on a spiritual level, and I think that's the biggest one. Because if you don't believe something, you will not be able to do it.
No, I agree. And I think it's not just the CA stream. I think with anything. The realization that there's something bigger than yourself out there is something that really carries you. But also the lessons that I've learned doing the degree and kind of, falling 7 times and standing up is that grit. It trumps talent every time. You can have talent, but if you're not willing to put in the work, and if you're not willing to be, passionate and work at what you're doing, you will not succeed in absolutely anything in this life. So it really taught me to be to be committed and to work hard, and that is probably one of the biggest things that you need as an entrepreneur, which is probably a journey I'm going to talk to you about at some point in this interview. But those are the skills that I've kind of carried from the lessons that I've learned over my life.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So now you qualified as a chartered accountant, and then you after your that's after your training at Deloitte, right? Yeah, and then you move to the IDC. Yes. Right. Yeah. So IDC is a bit of a government sector. Yeah. How was that adjustment for you? Moving from a predominantly very high performance culture to the IDC, which is more government.
So funny enough, I mean, yes, IDC is an SOE, but it has a high performance culture, and also the work that the Industrial Development Corporation does is actually good work, because this is the development of business, of job creation in the country. So you work there with passion. It's not just any other job. You know? And I understand people who stay there for hundreds of years, and there are people that stay. I understand it because it's work with a heart. You see an entrepreneur coming in just with an idea. You fund that idea. That idea creates 10 jobs, and 3 years later, it's created 100. And by the time you see them again, it's created 1,000 jobs. So the adjustment wasn't too difficult. I felt there was still room in that organization to kind of be professional and to work hard. You still had deadlines and all of that. And I mean, I don't know how it is now, but I mean, back then, I really believe that it was a great training ground. I can't think of any other place, except the banks, of course, where every day you look at a different business idea and a different, let's say, industry, for instance. Every day you are seeing different business people. No 2 days are the same, and that is actually a blessing that you don't get bored. So I think that's why I stayed close to 7 years. It was really, really.
Can you say that contributed to your passion for business?
Yeah. So it was definitely part of the journey, and it was part of what contributed to my love for business. So I said that my parents started a business when I was quite young. So I was brought up mending the till and driving groceries into the village and stuff. So I saw business from up close with my parents. They really tried to involve us day to day where we could. If we were, if we were not in school holidays, you went nowhere. You were at the shop. You were selling something. Everybody had something that they did. Of my 4 siblings. So there was that. And then in high school, I was selling stuff. I was selling this and that. I can't say what else.
You can't say
some
what?
of it legal, some of it not so legal. But we were in boarding school, and there were supplies that were needed, and you would supply. And you would supply. You would supply those things. And then eventually into it, it was just logical for me to study something in business. Right. And so even then, when I went to Deloitte, I just knew that I'm doing this. Someday I'm going to end up in entrepreneurship somehow. So I've run an events company. I used to have an events company called Shorter Events. We ran events. We had a venue. We were doing parties in Midrand. So I've run all sorts of little businesses. I sold bags that I would buy at the city center in Joburg CBD, and we would put a markup for those friends who are not gonna go to Duluza. I will buy and then I will sell. So it's been like a journey of just selling something, of having a side hustle of some sort.
Sure, okay. So business is in your blood.
No, for sure. For sure. It was clear from the beginning that I might take this route, but eventually I'm going to end up as an entrepreneur.
Okay. So then eventually you move to Momentum. But then I just want to ask a question, and I don't want you to mention which employer this experience comes from, because we don't want to
I don't want to
So I just want to as women, right, in leadership, you were a senior deal maker at IDC and also at Momentum. It was a senior role, right? But the gender, right, the women gender, I've heard a lot of people having challenges, making it in the corporate spaces because of the gender itself. What are those challenges that you came across as a professional in in your experience?
No, for sure. I think there's a subconscious bias that people have towards women at times, right? And I think it's something that I've been aware of throughout my journey. It wasn't strange to find yourself on tables where you are the only woman.
Yeah.
It's not strange to find yourself on tables where you are the only black person, for instance.
Yeah.
So you're a woman and you're black.
Yeah.
And firstly, I feel that's the challenge, because you're sitting here with people that don't look like you. But I have learned over time, right, that as much as we would blame other people for having the biases.
Yeah.
It's also about us and what we think of ourselves.
Oh, wow.
Do we feel that we are worthy to be sitting on those tables? Because what I have learned is that if you genuinely have something to bring to the table, I'm not going to talk about sponsorship yet, or people maybe before you that will pull you up as they rise.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the fact that the door has been opened for Mutondi to come and sit on this table. When you are on that table, what is your contribution? Because if your contribution is one that comes from a confident place, it is one that is researched and known, then everybody has to listen. There's no way. If I come there and I know my subject matter, and maybe I'm sounding like it's just as easy as walking in and then it kind of happens.
Yeah.
I think it is a journey. You kind of for the first time you're like very conscious, and then you're like, okay, but I'm here now. So what do we do? We are here. So you go back and you're like, if my male counterpart puts in an hour to prepare for the same thing that I have to prepare for, then maybe I need to put in 2 hours, double the time.
But why is that?
It is an old age. It is an old age issue. If you look at the generations, let's say, of our parents, and you track it over time. I think our parents were probably the ones it was that generation that were starting to talk of the first black this.
Yes.
The first black doctor, the first black CAs.
Yes.
That's the generation before us, or maybe 2 generations before us. I mean, depending on how old we are. But it's the generation before us. Do you really think that to move from that generation, that is just now, recently, I'm not talking about 100 years ago, I'm talking about
that's true.
50 years ago, to move into I mean, when I got to the University of Pretoria, for instance, it was at a time where black girls or even black people were just a very small, we were in the minority in the entire university.
Yeah.
So what are the chances that when you sit in a boardroom in the early 2000s, you are one of 50 black people on that table, women on that table. So it is something that we need to be changing over time. And I think probably the next generation, or our generation of men, will be different from the previous generation of men, because it's not new to them. They were in classes with us. We contribute to issues the same way that they contribute, but to get there, there's got to be some work to be done. So firstly, it's the work that we need to do within ourselves, that we deserve the seat on the table. We settle that, and we put in the work, and we are worthy of the seat in the table. But secondly, it's for you and I, who have now been seasoned in this journey somewhat for the last 15, 20 years or whatever, since we've qualified, that we open the doors for those who are coming after us. Open that door, mentor somebody, sponsor somebody, so that this phenomenon of having a woman on this table, it's not foreign. It's not like, here is, it's a weird thing, but it becomes like, it's another person on the seat. It's no longer about women.
Yeah, it's a woman,
It's no longer about women on the... It's an old age issue. You look at religion also, for instance. And there's arguments about, should women be wearing hats or not? Should they, it builds up on that. And it is a conscious decision that both men and women need to make, to say, but we're equal. We're equal but different.
Yes, exactly.
We're equal but different.
Yeah, because what you are saying, especially when you said if a man spends 1 hour doing a task, a woman must spend like 2 hours in order to be on par. Yeah, so it feels like we're constantly
having to prove ourselves.
To prove ourselves. And when are we going to get to a point where we say,
this is it.
Yeah, this is it. Just receive me. I don't need to sit on the table and prove myself. Just arrive like every other person.
when more and more people get those seats on that table,
Mm.
that is when we're going to solve that problem. I'll give you an example of something that happened a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Without mentioning names or whatever. So somebody walks into our office where we work with my business partners who are male and decides that I'm probably one of the either admin or one of, you know, the physical people in the building.
Yeah.
Right. And I greet them and they greet and pass and they say, please, where's your business partner, Mr. X? And I say, Mr. X, there are people here to see you. And when Mr. X then does the presentation and says, this is the business and this is our CEO, that's when they're like, oh my goodness, isn't that the woman we met when we were walking in?
Yeah.
And these were males who are of the older generation.
Oh.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
But they've seen me now and now they're like, oh, so you, now all of a sudden, okay, they want to engage. But if they keep seeing this movie unfold many times, then it is no longer strange for them. Because you would think about it, that generation, the old generation, they saw women as, let's say, their maids, black women as their maids. And with all due respect, it's where we come from. And there's a lot of change that still needs to happen.
And that brings me to another issue, right?
yes.
So your encounter, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that people respect your position more than you? Because I just feel like if I walk into a place, I shouldn't be classing people into,
Unfortunately.
I'm gonna be nice because this one is the CEO.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Is that another issue that
it is definitely an issue that is, I don't know, I think it's human nature to want to. You'll see. I mean, I see it all the time, and I prove it. I was even saying to my husband. So people, when our kids were younger and they were starting in schools, and then they would be invited to parties. The first thing people will ask you is, oh, so whose mommy are you? And then you say, I'm Moana's mommy. And they'll say, what do you do? And I always laugh and I say, this is when they want to suss how much respect they want to give.
Yes.
It is not right. It's definitely not right. But it is human nature to want to attach your position to how much value they give you. And it is very wrong. And I think we need to learn to just respect people for who they are. So what if you're not the CEO of the company? You still deserve the respect. So what if you're the most junior in the company? You still deserve the respect. And I saw it, I mean, just to share a bit of my journey when you asked me about having been in a SOE. When I was at the SOE, I decided that eventually I would like to go into consulting and into a consulting business. And I remember saying to my business partner now, then, I mean, we were still talking about what kind of a business we're going into. And I said, let me go first to a listed entity and get a little bit of, let me go back into the private sector a little bit so that when we go and sell business, we can say, oh, this one was in an OSOE, but then they've also spent a couple of years in a senior position at a listed entity. And at that time I felt like, okay, that will probably add value to what I'm selling. And it's unfortunate that we have to think that way because we just feel like, okay, if we just come as we are without adding spice is not enough. But again, it's just conscientizing people over and over again, showing up as who we are, but bringing other people with us and saying, even our SOEs, I mean, we do have something to offer. And I'll tell you, I mean, I left the SOE and I went into the private sector. And at first I was quite nervous, but then I realized that I genuinely have something to offer on this table. But I mean, that was nobody's fault. It was just me that I had to think to myself and tell myself and gain that confidence to say, okay, I'm here now and I've got something to offer. So there's really that where you're very right. People do honor your position before. So firstly, they listen to you because you're a CA, and then you need to prove yourself that you are worthy of their respect.
That's true. Sure.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. So if there's someone who's struggling with, that oppression, from the other gender, what techniques do you think they can use? Obviously, you did say, just, telling yourself that you have something to offer. But then what are the practical things that one can do if you find yourself in a male-dominated industry?
I cannot stress enough the advantage of having another woman to speak to.
Okay.
Find a mentor or find someone to speak to. Somebody who, Mutondi has achieved X, Y, and Z. Approach somebody and say, can you be somebody that I bounce idea off? And if it's in an organization and there's a woman in a senior position in the same organization, approach that woman and say, help me to navigate this, because chances are they've also had to deal with the same kind of issues. Yes. And then secondly, I've actually never had a female boss in my entire life. Everybody that has opened doors for me throughout my entire career, right, have been males. And to a point where I felt like we had a good relationship enough for me to even go to them and say, I'm struggling with you men around the table. Because you're my direct, I'm struggling with this. How do you think I can, so I cannot even stress less the idea of having open conversations, even with the males on your team, to say, you know what, I feel like I've got imposter syndrome. I feel like I'm alone. I feel outnumbered. How can you help me to feel more comfortable in this space? Or even your co-workers. I remember there was a co-worker of mine, a male, at one of the places where I worked. We used to talk each other up. So if he says something, I will say, I want to agree with what X is saying, and I want to add this. And he would do the same for me. You will be so surprised how much confidence that gives you. Or if he felt, and we were friends and we'd talk about these things that, I feel a little bit out of depth here. And we would talk about something. And then one day, for the first time, he just said, we were talking about this with Ndia, and she gave me these ideas. Ndia, maybe share those ideas. And then for the first time, I'm like, this is what I said, and I'm opening up, and then the confidence starts to build up. Wow. You cannot do this thing on your own. Sure. You really need the people around you to, and it doesn't have to be women. It can also be men. But I think the most important thing is that you need to read the room and know who to talk to, number one.
Okay.
And you need to play open cards with those you can trust around you. And say, this is how I feel. I feel, I don't feel confident in this. How can I upskill myself? How can you support me? And you will find that most people are willing to help you. I found that even the old generation of males, right, who I have reported to, old generations, I'm talking about people that are close to their retirement. The moment you say, I admire this about your leadership, you entice. So when you're dealing upwards, you entice. When you're dealing with your peers, then your peers, you can talk the same way, but you might have to do a little bit of enticing to say, and I'm not saying lie to them, I'm saying try to find the positives that they have to offer. It's only an evil person that you will say to, I admire this about you, teach me, work with, and they say, no, I'm not interested.
Yo, wow.
9 out of 10 times.
That's so powerful.
9 out of 10 times people will say, do you really want me to take you under my wing? Wow. And then you will become their project. And when doors are opening, or when names are supposed to be mentioned in rooms full of opportunity, guess whose name they will mention?
Of course.
They will mention your name. I had even learned to know how many children they have. And then one day I'll just like, how is Mang number your firstborn doing? Was it in matric? Then they start to share, and then you're like, I have children. How would you advise me to do this? Oh, and by the way, I'm really struggling in this area. Can you help me? People are people.
Yes.
People are people. There's one thing that is common among all people. We all want to be happy. We all want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Black, white, yellow, orange, male, female. It's the same thing.
Wow. I feel like Ndia just dropped a huge life hack. Like, if you're just starting out your career, right? You entice upwards.
You entice?
Yeah.
Every time. Yeah. Even if a CEO entice the board.
Yeah. No matter how rude they seem to be.
You entice.
Because everyone loves compliments. They like to be validated.
No, it's true. It's very true.
Sure.
I think it's really the most evil people, and you don't really get a lot of
Yeah,
it.
you don't get a lot.
Society is not that evil.
Yeah, people are nice.
People are good people.
Yeah.
And I found that people build walls because of previous experiences.
Yes.
And you really can love people to bringing down those walls. And I've seen it. I mean, I remember at one employer that I had, there was this lady who was known as the Iron Lady. And I worked with her directly for some of she wasn't my boss, but there was a project that we had to kind of do for her.
Yeah.
And when I left, I sent an email. I said, I'm leaving the organization. And she said, can we have coffee? I could not believe it. Iron Lady wants to have coffee with me. I have coffee with her. And she says, when you go into this thing of yours, if you find something that you think I can help you with, give me a call. I said,
Iron Lady.
The Iron Lady did that. Because I enticed.
Okay.
If you build up a wall, I don't build a wall around myself.
Yeah.
I allow myself to be vulnerable. And I become myself. But it's something I learned over time. I mean, I wasn't born like that. I mean, there were times when I would cry myself, I think I'm leaving this job. But then over time, I actually learned that people are people.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And from what you just shared with me now, I'm picking up that, we always want to make it a gender issue to say it's like men versus women, right? And when we are going about this equality thing, it seems like that, and maybe that's why we get so much resistance. So you just told me that you can even get men to help you to achieve your dreams. It doesn't have to be another woman. So I think that's actually very powerful, and
it's not us against
and it's a goal that is within reach. I mean, almost everyone knows a male boss, that they report to, and it's something that you can start doing like today. I like that. So now when we are talking, when you spoke about Iron Lady and men also helping women go up, our women sometimes we don't have a very good reputation. Women in leadership positions. I've heard some horrifying stories of a woman reporting to another woman, which you tend to feel like, okay, at least this is home. I can be vulnerable. I can, this person should understand, where I'm coming from, the struggles that I have, hormonal issues. Women deal with a lot, But then you find that it's the same woman that will then go and break you down and oppress you. How can we do better as
the next generation?
Yes.
I don't want to excuse anyone's behavior. I just think if you think about where we come from as a country and what our foremothers, right, the women who've come before us have had to endure to get to the seat at the table and retain it. I think there could be this thing of wanting to hold on to it and people feeling like I was the first. I must hold on and be the first forever. But we've got an opportunity to change that. This generation of women have an opportunity to change that. And I like the fact that everywhere you go, people are talking about purpose and people are talking about lifting others as they rise. There are actual organizations of women right now, and I can name a few, that are set up solely for the fact that have a project, and that project should lift others as we rise. Can I name them?
You may.
You think of AWCA.
Yes.
These are, they were the first black female CAs who then say, now when you are growing Mutondi and Ndia, rise with somebody else. I can think of the IWFSA, for instance. They stand for lifting others as they rise. And that is our opportunity. Because if your thinking is that, so this is how I see it. I will never, at the end of my life, when I'm 100, right? So when I'm 100 and at the end of my life, when I look back, I want to see actual people that were raised because of me. And that for me will be a definition of success. I will say that I can actually count that I opened the door. It doesn't have to be a woman only. I'm just saying, like, wherever that I have an opportunity to serve or to be, can I just be able to say, oh, this person moved from here to there because of me? And if that is your purpose, that is your life purpose day by day, then you cannot close those doors once you walk in. And that is the opportunity that we have as a new generation of women. Those other ones are leaving. They will open the doors. They will open the doors for those they open the door for. But what do we do now as this generation?
I like that, because we are fighting for pro women, but then there are people who are taking us 10 steps back, and this is a battle that you cannot win on your own.
No, not a chance.
We need to take everyone with us so that the impact can be great. And it will be so normal. One day it will be so normal for women to just, start, big corporations, and nobody needs to be surprised when you walk by to think whether you are the CEO or not.
You just reminded me shortly. You just reminded me of this thing that I think it was somebody sharing the story that a young boy out of Germany, they were showing him some other president of another country, and they were like, "Oh, this is the president." It was a man, and he said, "Oh, that is strange. I think prime ministers are women." Because he, because of Angela Merkel and what he's used to. I'm saying a day will come. I mean, this is a young boy. A day will come where even our kids will not even see the difference. It will be like, "Oh, okay, that's the president." Not it's the first female president, or it's the first female CEO of this company. We are still on that journey, and we have to be conscious what we do.
We have to be. We have to be, and be intentional about building up those blocks. So now that you are here, you are a woman in leadership, and you are doing it very well, right? So I just want you to you're doing amazing things right now, and I don't want to divulge. I want you to share with us the current business that you are doing, and empower someone and inspire someone who'd like to do something similar. Because I think you started from a point where you didn't have a female role model, but
from my bosses,
I mean, really, so just share with us what you're currently doing, and inspire someone out there.
No, sure. I'll share it as a story, and then I will also throw in the lessons that I've learned throughout, so that we don't talk all day. So then I'm at IDC, and I'm a deal maker, and then my friend who's male and is now my business partner comes to me and says, we've always said we're going to start a business, why don't we? And I say, by the way, let's do it. And then I say, let me go and get a little bit of private sector experience, and then we will join each other full time. And so we start a consulting business first. It's still running till this day. It's called Blackslope Consulting. We do innovation consulting. So a company will come to us and say, we would like to grow non-organically, for instance, look for growth opportunities for us. And we will work out the strategy, and we will also advise on how they can bring in these new technologies. So that is the business we started first. And the idea was, let this business, because we are accountants, we've been consultants before, let this business keep the lights on. And then we start the business that I currently run on a full-time basis, right? Which, 99% of my time is spent there. That is Blackslope Mobility, trading as Everlectric. Everlectric is an electric vehicle leasing business that leases electric vehicles to the logistics sector, right? So our strategy is very clear. We are only concerned with greening logistics. So we will not lease an internal combustion engine vehicle, right? And that idea comes because as an entrepreneur, we exist to solve problems. So we realized that logistics players were looking for ideas on how to decarbonize their fleets. They want to reduce their carbon emissions, and so we brought them this solution. And the business starts. We formed the formal business, CIPC registration, what. But now you need to start putting in the work. That's when we travel to China, we get a supplier, and we set this business up. It's 4 years now,
Yeah.
and we've currently commercialized. So we ran 5 vehicles for 2 years, and in this year we've grown, and I think at the end of this year we'll be at 105.
What?
Yeah. So. Yeah, so, but I
Wow.
mean, this is years, it's 4 years of
Yeah.
blood, sweat, and tears. It's 4 years of many lessons learned. It's
Yeah.
4 years of many no's and doors closed in our faces. So if we're all made up and we are sitting here and we look like,
Yeah.
this thing ain't no thing, and
Yeah.
it was easy, it was not easy. But again, all those lessons that I learned through my career about grit, about relationships, the most important thing, those are the things that are the building blocks for success.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you remember the moment
Yeah.
when that idea dropped and you're like, we could do this?
So in my case, my business partner came and said, look at electric mobility.
Yeah.
Start looking at it because I
Okay.
can see an opportunity here.
Uh-huh.
And then at first I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then I start looking into it for myself. So when I start traveling internationally,
Yeah.
I'm no longer just going there for a holiday. I'm
Yeah.
like really doing
Yeah.
a bit of a due diligence to see what's really happening. And I started to notice. I mean, I remember back then, before I actually went into business, I went to the US for on holiday, and I started realizing, there's a lot of electric cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I even went to China for work on another assignment, and I realized there's so many electric vehicles. And so when I came back to my partners,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I see what you mean. How can we bring it to South Africa? And that's actually when the penny dropped to say, maybe we've got something here. So I suppose the point there is that the idea doesn't have to be a new thing. Like now you are inventing a flying dinosaur. It could just be something that you customize, that you see elsewhere, and you customize it for your environment.
Yeah.
That is what innovation is also about.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. So
Yeah.
is it safe to say you are the first, once again, the first in the country?
I would say we were the first all-electric dealership in the country.
Okay.
We were the first company in the country to lease electric vehicles solely to the logistics industry. I think we can safely say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well done.
Yeah,
Well done.
yeah.
We are really proud of your work. And
No, thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
and I mean, it's the first time I heard about that, I was like, I never thought that could be a business. You know, I guess when you are not exposed to those things, you never really think about it. But it was just amazing when I heard you share about it. I was like, wow, this is brilliant.
You know, like I said, as if maybe even your viewers could start doing this everywhere they go, just have this mind of, what problem do I have, or what is the problem that I'm hearing around me, and how can I innovate to solve it? That's it. That's the thinking I always have.
Yeah.
Like what bothers me, and how can I innovate around it?
Sure.
And just start thinking like that. Then you'll see that your how you view things becomes a lot more different.
Yeah.
Now when I travel for holiday, it's no longer just a holiday. It's like, these guys are doing things this way. How can we, would this work in our country?
Yeah.
Does it exist in our country? That kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So holiday is not just leisure.
And not just that, I mean, everywhere you go, you kind of are listening. When you're listening to the news, it's no longer just, to hear the juice. It's also like, this bothers me. Let's say maybe crime bothers me. How can I, what can be done? And then you're like, okay, maybe I don't like that idea. Okay, maybe it's not for me. Next, what's the next thing that's a problem? How can I solve that? And I'm trying to teach my kids to also do that.
Yeah.
That's how they will innovate and come up with new ideas.
No, definitely. Now that you've mentioned kids, it brings me to my next question. You have a couple of businesses, right? So, and you're married.
Yes.
And you are.
And I sing in the.
You sing, yes. Not
and
forgetting.
I sit on a couple of boards.
Hey, a full mother, not part time.
Yeah,
full-time mom.
All of those.
How do you do it? Please help us share some techniques in which we can also thrive.
The Lord gives me strength.
Yeah.
Case closed.
Yeah.
Yes, the Lord does give me strength, but I've also learned, firstly, and I share this every time because that question comes up a lot.
Yeah.
I have learned to leverage on my relationships to help me where I can't be.
Okay.
I say that balance is not always possible, right? I cannot be everywhere. I cannot be omnipresent.
Yes.
But first of all, I need to create systems. And when you create systems, let me tell you something. Let me share something that my life coach taught me.
Okay.
He says everything you love must be etched in a system. You must have a system for something that you love. There must be a system for your marriage, system for your children, system for your business. That means a system that works, that even when you're not there, it works, right? So in my marriage, how did we create the system? We communicate things. Baby, I really cannot be here today. Can you be here today? And so when I'm not there, it's not a miracle or a question. We knew that this day would come, and the same for him, right? Even when we started our businesses, he started first, I supported, then he allowed me. So that's the system that we created. So when it was my turn to start, he was standing and he could support me.
Oh, wow.
You see, when it comes to children, what kind of children do you want to bring up? And if you want to bring up those kind of children, what systems do you have? Maybe it's a system of every day you check in with your children. How was your day? What are you thankful for today? If you hear them not saying thank you after they've been given something, please say thank you. Please compliment someone. Just teach them. You're teaching them a system that even when you're not there, then they can. But it's the same thing everywhere, in every aspect of my life. Creating a system. And by creating a system, it makes me omnipresent. The fact that I'm here now doesn't mean my children's hair is not being cut. It is because somebody is making it happen, because the system works. So, and that system is also etched in relationships. There are people around me who help me to carry this thing. And then secondly, it's really just a thing of when you're at a place, you must be fully there. A lot of people are practicing mindfulness. People are talking about mindfulness. It's about, if I get home and now it's time for children's time. That is children's time. Whether you call me or, my phone is even far. We even do this thing where, let's say if we go out to a restaurant with my family, we put the phones face down in the middle of the table, phone stack. No one is allowed to look at this thing because we say this is our time.
Okay.
When it's time for hubby, it's time for hubby. Because honestly speaking, it is difficult. You also need to have habits that you've created for yourself. So my power habits are this: 4:15 I'm up, 4:30 I'm in my prayer closet.
4:15.
4:15. But I agree, it can be 9:15 and then you make your day longer.
Step one, wake up at 4:15.
No, please. I don't want your viewers to kill me to think me that I said they must be there. It can be 4:15 that you get up, but I'm just saying this is mine. This is what works for me. 4:15 I'm up, 4:30 I'm sitting in my prayer closet, and I am speaking to my boss.
Yes,
the real boss, the ultimate boss, and that's half an hour of whatever. And then 5 o'clock, I've got devotion, so I follow a devotion on YouTube that runs every single day at 5. It's called Dawn. And I will at the break of dawn, 5 to 5:30. That's what I will do. Now I want to go back into gym, so I want to leave at 5:30 and be at the gym at 6. And then my day in the office will start anytime between 7:45 and 8, and that's the office. But again, when I come back home, it's children time, it's homework. If it's my turn to do homework, because I do have someone who does help them with their studies. But there are certain days that I will kind of, sit with my kids and we'll do times tables and we'll do whatever. So on those days, then I will do that, dinner, put them to bed. If I need to work, I will work or I will read. So it's also about having power habits. Your day can't be all over the place, because how are you going to fit absolutely everything? And even in my diary, I will say Monday is the day that I read, let's say, board packs. For 2 hours, and then the next is for doing this. So I try to put time aside for every aspect of the work life as well.
So no time goes unaccounted for.
Look, there will be those days where, like this week, I'm like really feeling a bit exhausted, but it's not the norm. It's because, and also to really take care of yourself. Self-care is
Okay.
very important.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with having a therapist, for instance.
Okay.
You know, we laugh and say, in Joburg, everybody's got a therapist. But actually, there's nothing wrong. It doesn't have to be one that you pay for. I'm just saying you do need someone that you can bow. If that person for you is your other half or whatever, let it be. But have an outlet. Because a lot of people think they're alone. But actually, you are not alone.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Sure.
And I think I do that. I've been trying to get those power habits because I do believe that we have so much potential to even do more than what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And, you know, I really believe in the concept that the universe will give you what you can handle. Yeah. Now, if I'm not setting up my time for me to handle what I have now, why should I be trusted with more?
What?
Because where are you going to fit this more? If I want to run a listed entity, let's say I really pray that Everlectric will be listed. My day will look absolutely different. But if I'm not disciplined about what my days look like right now, where should this listed company, where will it feature? Because 24 hours is all we have.
Yes.
And you know, I say to myself in my alone time, I don't want to attain things at the expense of everything else breaking.
Sure.
I don't want to lose my relationships over success. My children over success. I want to be able to, you know, etch everything in a system.
Yes. Yeah. And it's possible. Right? Yeah. So what you said now is so powerful that in order to, you know, grow and see greater success, you need to increase your capacity.
So so let me illustrate this for you very quickly, and this is something that I'm very passionate about. So imagine a table, right? We've got a table, and on this table we keep putting let's say bottles of water. Those bottles of water on the table is what you would call your skill set. It's your competence. So on my table I've put CASA, I've now put directorship essay. Those are my competencies. All right, I can sing. Those are my competencies. They're sitting on a table. That table we call your capacity. The more bottles you put on that table, the more you need to grow that table. If you've got 2 bottles, the table doesn't have to be as big. But if you've got 100 bottles, skills, competencies, then you need your table to be bigger.
Wow.
Now you need to be growing your capacity, and you grow your capacity by adding more of these bottles to fill this table, and you keep growing this table, and that is your capacity. Now here's the thing, people who grow their capacity will never be obsolete, because if this door closes, that door
there's
opens.
always
But people who just have one skill set, you will be disrupted. Because the world is changing at such a pace where there are a lot of, I mean, the job index that comes out every year, they come out with like, what are the jobs of the future? They tell you that half of the jobs will be disrupted by 2050. When your job is disrupted, what will you have? At least you will have your podcast. People will still be
They'll be there on YouTube.
Listen, but I just advocate for people always being lifelong learners. Learn the next thing. And I'm not saying you need to be applying for a PhD or a master's. It is learning from Dr. Google, Dr. YouTube, Dr. ChatGPT. We've got information at our fingertips, and we grow our capacity by growing our skills.
And it's interesting that you bring that up, because you know when you study, when you qualified as a CA, you're like, yo,
this is
done. Done. I'm not gonna learn any other thing and all that. But it's amazing when you get started on a journey of learning again, you realize, oh my God, there's so much more to learn, and there's so much more that my brain can still take in.
No, for sure. And you know, I'll give you an example. I used to struggle to speak, for instance. And
you struggle to what?
To speak formally. That thing was hard for me. And then I decided, I need to get a speaking coach. Somebody must teach me how to speak. So I joined Toastmasters. So I spent years in Toastmasters. I did the Toastmasters curriculum. And you know, God is not haphazard. He will allow you to learn the thing, and then he will give you the opportunity. Little did I know then that in starting this business, there will be a lot of speaking
Yeah.
engagements. A lot, like sometimes twice a week, I must be
Sure.
speaking at this conference and that conference. And I say, Lord, I'm so grateful because
Wow.
I know that you prepared me for it. And when you were
Yeah.
preparing me, it was an extra thing that used to annoy me. If you
Yeah.
started at 4:30 on a Wednesday, like I needed to put effort to be able
Yeah.
to show up there. There were other things that I rather would have been doing.
Yeah.
But I learned that, and I was deliberate about learning that. And now when speaking engagements come, I'm not saying I don't get nervous anymore, but I've been taught how to
Yeah.
actually stand in front of people and teach. Because the universe doesn't allow a vacuum. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. Exactly.
Sure.
And that's how it is. These opportunities must find you ready.
Sure. Wow. I'm learning so I'm learning so much. I think I'm gonna rewatch this podcast myself.
Opportunities have to find us ready. They
Sure.
don't just come.
Yo, you are really inspiring me. I feel like I can jump off my
Ay,
seat and start
ay,
working
ay,
on
ay.
something now. Yeah. No, wow, thank you for sharing that. And I think, when we realize that, the more you do, then the more you do,
Yes.
basically. And you need to be mentally prepared for that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you feel like I'm drowning, but you have been prepared for that, because when you are increasing your capacity, then automatically opportunities come.
No, for sure.
So yeah, that's so important. And it just also tells me that there is enough for everyone.
Oh, so
You
much.
can keep going until you are 100 and you'll never finish up the opportunities that are there.
Exactly.
And that when you know that there's enough for everyone, then it just means you and I don't need to compete.
No.
There's enough
No.
for when you bring 10 more women onto the table, it doesn't mean that there's not enough space anymore.
No.
It just means that the table will now get longer.
It becomes longer.
Yes.
And then when your own table when you don't have a certain skill on your own table,
Yeah.
you can even start calling other people's
Yes.
competencies.
Yes.
And that is when you collaborate.
Wow.
And there is power in collaboration.
Yeah.
And that's how I see it.
Yeah.
I collaborate with other women. I've had other women that have opened, and other people. I've had other people that have mentioned my name in a room of opportunities, and they've said, I can offer you this service up to here, but I know this one that can offer it up to there.
Wow.
Because the pie is big enough.
Yes.
There's really no need to compete, but there is definitely a place for collaboration.
For collaboration. I think that's a key word.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I wish there were these kinds of podcasts when I was growing up. Right.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Which will prepare you for these things that you'll come across when you get into corporate. What is the advice that you can give someone who's starting out in their career?
Yeah.
Right. Either they want to be a CA or they just want to, venture into business or lead in any other way. What is that one advice that you can give them?
I would say wherever you go, especially in the beginning, go there with a growth and a learning mindset. Let money be the last idea. Let money be at the back of your mind. Yes, you do need to make ends meet. But like I said, the more you build your skill set, the more stronger your capacity will become, and the more the universe brings to you, and the money will follow.
Yeah.
So be that person that says, boss, I've finished my work here. Can you rotate me to the next?
Yeah.
Can you give me more?
Yeah.
And learn and learn and learn. I have seen that people who take initiative.
Yeah.
You know, as somebody who would have supervised people or managed people.
Yeah.
That's the person you send to do even more.
Yes.
You even give them part of your work because you can trust them.
Yes.
So I would say really go there with a learning mind and not a money mind.
Yeah.
Right? Even with business. I see it with a lot of people, especially these days, this generation of business people. We've got a mindset of conspicuous consumption. Like everyone is thinking of the Maserati and the Bentley and the supercar, but actually, when it's all about building and understanding that you eat last, but if you build a sustainable business, it's not only going to feed you to buy them Gucci sneakers for today, but it will feed your children and your children's children, and that's how you see that some of the business people of old
Yeah.
have done, where even today you can see businesses that have grown to 200 billion
Yeah.
that were started. I mean, you can think of, I mentioned that my dad was in retail.
Yeah.
He started in probably 82 or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a similar business that started in 1978, which is ShopRite.
Mm.
This year it made 200 billion in revenue.
Wow.
Because
Yeah,
the mindset is growth and
Yeah.
sustainability.
Yeah.
And I mean, we grew up comfortable and whatever, it's all great. But I'm just saying that our mindset should be that of building and
Yeah.
not of building on and leaving a legacy for generations to come.
Yeah.
And not just today. So money should actually be
The
the last thing on our mind, but growth and sustainability should be at the forefront.
Yeah, so thank you for bringing up, that, to say money needs to be the last thing. However, we're living in a society where money is there in front, and we see it, on social media. The people who are the most popular, the Gucci kind of people. People are even going to lengths, to even get the fake ones so that they can get the recognition that comes with someone who wears
certain
things or drives certain things, right? So, like I said, this is an advice to a young person, right? And that is what they're exposed to. How can they counter that influence so that they're able to, channel themselves to say, money lasts?
Yeah. No, I think it's a mindset thing again.
Yeah.
And I think with all of this that we are able to see around us through social media, you need to decide as a person what you are willing to block and what is reality. And I think watching podcasts such as this, where we're having like candid discussions about, hey, we started from the bottom, and I'm not saying now we're here. We are somewhere in between. It's all about having a futuristic mindset. We don't eat today and finish everything. It's more like when you're sitting and you're thinking, okay, I'm starting this business. Yes, I must be able to support myself. But I want us to leave this business, let's say, for my children. I want my children to also build on it. Or I want them to learn lessons from it and start their own thing and also, grow from it. Let that be the mindset rather than... and I think business is so glamorized, right? People think you just... Tomorrow you put in an invoice, you are 10 million rand richer. But that is not the truth. I think what people don't tell you is the hard work that goes behind the scenes. I walked in here in flat shoes and I was running and I was saying to the lady who was walking me, and I said, I work in a warehouse, I show people cars and stuff in a dealership, and I don't have time for heels, and now I have to put them on because I'm coming to your fancy show. But that's the part that nobody sees. What they will see on my social media is me made up with a mic talking at a conference, and they think this one has made it. There is a lot that goes on behind that, and it grows you as a person, it builds your character. But you have to have sustainability as top of your mind and not necessarily money. And if money comes, then it's a plus. Let me add to say, especially for the people who want to start businesses, I saw even in the funding where I was, kind of funding businesses, that we always frowned upon people who didn't separate their life from their business. Whatever comes into the business is mine, and that's what I use to buy the range and things like that. And it's because there is this mindset of saying whatever comes in is all mine. And people need to learn to say, I'm a separate individual from my business. I need to sustain myself, but the business needs to sustain itself. And know that the journey of business is not overnight. You build over time. We ran 5 vehicles for 2 years. We got 26 no's from people we asked for funding from. 26. I stopped counting as 26. So I used to, every time I went to a different funder, I would create a folder on, there's a folder in my computer that says funding. And if you count those fund names, those are people that we did presentations to. 26. That's the part they don't tell you. So when I sit here and I say, oh, we've got a fleet with Woolies and we've got fleets, and now we've just announced another one this morning on LinkedIn.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Nobody is asking about how, what kind of headaches did you have? People just see the glitz and the glamour. But actually, that's not the truth. So what I'm saying to them is, what you see on social media, it's not the truth.
Yeah.
It's a lie.
It's a lie.
It's a lie.
It's highlights,
It's highlights.
And when you are going through the most, cameras are not rolling. You don't
No.
have time to post.
You don't post.
Yeah.
And people even go to the airport with empty bags and check in and say, traveling to Switzerland. And we're like, but we're seeing you tomorrow there by mainland.
What happened to Switzerland? Is Switzerland here now?
What you see on social media, and for the young people, because they live, in the information age, what you see there is not the truth. The truth is you need to be building sustainably, and you need to be building your character and building your capacity. Yeah. And that's what will make you really own the private jet that you see on social media.
100%. 100%. Sure. So yes, you spoke about, business is not all glitz and glamour. Right?
Mix.
I'm gonna ask a question.
Yeah.
And if you are not comfortable answering it, that's fine.
Open cards.
What has been your greatest failure?
Sure. I didn't expect that question. Not that I'm not comfortable to answer it. I mean, I'm really happy to. I think my greatest failure was how late I launched as a person that is now comfortable in my own skin. I think I spent many years like really afraid of putting myself out there. It took a long time. I struggled with imposter syndrome. I used to think it's luck that I'm on certain tables. Oh. And so you spend a lot of time thinking, luck, I'm going to be found out. Yeah. And I think that has really been my biggest failure. And now I'm like deliberate about just showing up.
Yeah. But how did you overcome it? What made you say, Ndia, now it's time to come out?
Yeah. So getting to know myself even more in Christ has really helped. But there are positive confessions that anybody can do, no matter what you believe in. There are certain things that I say to myself every day. Okay. Without fail. Okay. Every morning before I get out of my house, I say I'm the literal body of Christ with Christ as my head, but mine are very Christ-centered, right? Yeah. So if somebody can find whatever.
But please share them so that,
I'm the literal body of Christ with Christ as my head. I see like Christ because I have his eyes. Christ is my head. When the world sees me, they encounter Christ. I speak and the world responds, for it is no longer I that lives, but Christ that lives in me. When my family sees me, they encounter Christ Jesus because Christ is my head. Christ cannot be sick. Christ cannot be afraid. Christ cannot die. He is alive, and that is who I am. Wow. and those are the things every time that I before I go on stage, for instance, I will say, would Christ be nervous? Christ is about to enter the stage. Well, if he's nervous, it's fine, but he's about to go and impart some important knowledge. So there's a certain knowing in myself that I deserve to be here. I've been put here for a reason. And how I want to be remembered someday is that what I want to die empty. Every single part that was bestowed on me and the things that I learned along the way, I want to have deposited into the world. That's how I want to be remembered.
Wow. I'm inspired by your positive affirmations.
I'll share them. I share them with anybody.
Please do.
My
because
coach.
You know what I like? Yes. And what I like is that when everything is Christ-centered, you take the pressure off yourself. No, for sure. It's not you that is doing that. Yeah. And it is the strength of Christ. Yeah. That's powerful for me.
So that's who I am. But I'm saying, no matter what you believe, have your own positive affirmations that say, this is who I am, and because this is what I stand for. I will not move from this. And it's the same confessions I go to when somebody says, in order for you to get this contract, give me a brown envelope. I go back to my affirmation. And I'm like, this one that put me here, would he not open the doors himself? Yeah. Would I need to,
exactly.
On the side to get these things? And so that has become my life motto. That it's all about my boss.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I know we said we are closing, but I can't let this one go.
Closing.
Yeah, closing. We're on the second closing. Okay, so with you saying, Christ-centered and, you are led by Christ, someone will be wondering why you had 26 funders declining.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
but you're still
Yeah,
centered in Christ.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Let me tell you that it is not to say that bad things will not happen just because you're centered.
Yeah.
You will get those no's. Either the world is a terrible place or the timing is not right or whatever. There's definitely. But what I know, even through the no's, and I'm sure by the 13th no, I was like,
this is
I'm
too
sure,
much. No,
I'm sure I can go back to my ex-employer. We used to laugh at like, hey, let me call Gerard. That momentum, because but there's always a knowing that there is a reason why I'm where I am, and so I must keep on keeping on, and that's the strength that I keep having. And at times it's not automatic. I still need to go into my closet. I need to cry it out, and then I need to remind myself again. So, the unfortunate thing is, as we're talking like this, people think it's so easy. Maybe I get a no, and then I'm like, I'm pressed, and then I still need 2 days to go and cry it out, and still deal and say, oh Lord, is this still the thing that you want me to do? If there's so many no's and it's so difficult, and then in the end, I'm learning that it is more important that in your time of, and this is the last thing I'm saying.
Last.
If you understand that you are in your season of planting, in your season of reaping, it shouldn't just be that all you developed was a business or this thing. In your season of reaping, you need to have developed in equal measure your character. Oh. Because character is what will sustain you to reap now and reap again, and that is sustainability. Wow. Things that are not etched or they do not have a foundation, a strong foundation, they can be blown away. It can come now, it can go tomorrow. So I've had to understand over time with the no's that in the season of building, there is no building site which is clean. Yes. It's dirty. We wear hard hats and you wear dirty boots, because that is the nature of cleaning. But when something is done and it's nicely cleaned out, it builds your character. Yeah. And my character is built. And that's why you will find that people who have built character over time, even if this venture doesn't work, they'll build the next one and make it a success.
Yes, because
and then
it's a character
thing. It was, you are not a one day wonder. What do they call it? One hit wonder. Yeah. You are someone who has built character, and your harvest will not change your character. Wow. Because I don't want to surprise you one day when I harvest, you're like, who's this woman? Yes.
Wow, that's beautiful. And it's just saying, the foundation has to be solid. You can't rush a foundation. That's a recipe for disaster.
Every one of those no's was building. It was a building block.
Part of the process. Yes. Wow. Yes. Ndia, I am so inspired, and I feel like we could talk all day.
I really enjoy talking to you.
So, thank you so much for sharing a part of yourself with us. I know there's a lot that we still want to talk about, but for this episode, I feel like we have done justice, and someone is going to learn, the real life stuff, and not just the things that they see with the nice decorations and stuff. Those are just the highlights, 1% of the 100%. So thank you so much for sharing, and we are really appreciative of that. So thank you guys for tuning into this wonderful episode celebrating a phenomenal woman. I believe you're gonna see more of her on your screens and on social media streets. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button so that every time when we upload, then you get the notification bell and watch more of our inspirational content. I promise you, you will never be the same again. So until next time, from Ndia and I, bye.
Thanks for having me.